Hello, this is Ariyana Love, Goodwill Ambassador to Palestine through the ICSPR in Gaza. Gaza, Palestine. All right, I did turn my notifications off. But they're popping up. I'm going to wait for a couple people to come in. Oops, this is shaking. Sorry. Okay. So this is my humble little office here. There we go. People are coming in. So I'm going to give a couple minutes. Hi, Denny. Nice to see you. Good. People are coming in. Hi, Matassim. Hello, Medics Index. Nice to see you guys. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and begin. I just want to let everybody know what has happened. So the Zionists had me taken, banned from Facebook for 30 days. Of course, in preparation for their assault on the Gaza Strip. Obviously, they didn't want me reporting. They tried to get me banned also at Twitter, but that didn't work because Twitter has a different policy where if there's a tweet that and how they work so that people know is that basically they work in groups. So the Zionists, they will have multiple people reporting one post. And Facebook standards is just like if you have 3 people reporting one post, you're blocked for 1 week. If you have 3 more people, you're blocked for 2 weeks, and so on up to 1 month. So they work with each other in groups this way, knowing how it works. But Twitter allows you to remove a tweet. So anyway, it's great to be back. I do have a solution to this Facebook censorship. I do have a Periscope account now. I can live stream from that, and it will go directly to my Twitter account. I'm going to see if it will also go to Facebook, but I'm not sure. So, if I am ever blocked again from Facebook, you can follow me. I recommend everybody download the Periscope app. It's not a social media platform like Facebook. You cannot chat, you cannot post, but it's strictly live streaming. But it is owned by independent immigrants in America. So Periscope is good. There's no censorship going on there. Let's see. What else? Yeah, so that's the solution. And also an article is coming out very soon about the hack on my websites. So, they are attacking me and trying to silence me. But you know what? It just gives me courage to keep on going. It tells me that I'm doing something that really has an effect. And I feel honored by that. So, nice to see you, Mohammed. Okay, so let's get into this. I just wrote, let's see how many pages, 17-page report on the crimes against humanity committed by Zionist Israeli occupation since Friday of May 3rd until the ceasefire at 4:30 a.m. on Monday morning. So this report covers the war crimes and crimes against humanity in the occupied Palestinian territories of besieged Gaza and the West Bank from May 3rd until May 6th. Okay, and I'm going to be reading from my notes, which is on this computer here, so I'll be turning my head to this screen. I made this report in order to prove that the Palestinian people, the resistance and Hamas are not to blame for anything regarding this Israeli strike on Gaza. They're not to blame whatsoever. They did absolutely nothing wrong. There was no rocket fire coming from Gaza when the first airstrike struck the Strip. So these are entirely the Zionist occupation crimes against the Palestinian people. The Great Return March demonstrations began in the Gaza Strip on Friday, May 3rd. Oh, and I'm going to prove it. It's all in this report. And it might be a little bit boring for some people, but it's accurate. It's got all of the accurate information. It's got all the data that we need to know and absolutely proves that Israel is at fault. And in fact, they even, implicated themselves. Hi, Haitham, and hi, Saeed. Welcome. So I'm going over a timeline review of all of the events that occurred, all of the crimes against humanity committed by the Israeli occupation from Friday, May 3rd until the ceasefire on Monday in the morning on May 6th. And I think that this is very important because, watching the reports from social media and mainstream media, how they lie for Israel and claim that, put all of the blame onto Hamas and the Palestinian resistance, somehow trying to justify murder, and it's not okay. And so I just had to prove to the world that this is 100% the Israeli Zionists, and it was pre-planned too. All right, let's get into it. Timeline review. So the Great Return March demonstrations began in the Gaza Strip on Friday, May 3rd, as they have been protesting every week for their right of return and lifting of the illegal siege on Gaza. By 7:40 p.m. in the evening, Palestine time. Now, all of these times that I'm referencing are Palestine time. 10 underage minor children were shot by Israeli snipers and wounded. 2 females were shot, 3 paramedics, and a journalist. Another journalist was shot later in the head. Okay, so Palestinian journalist Safinaz Alou, forgive me if I get the names wrong, she was shot in the head by a military sniper with a rubber-coated steel bullet. So it's less than lethal weapons, which can kill if they are used in a lethal way, like shooting at the head, which is forbidden under international law. All right. It's 7:25 p.m. Oh, whoa. So even before that report, sorry, I got this backwards, but at 7:25 p.m., Zionists shot 3 artillery shells near Al-Wada refugee camp in central Gaza. This was a severe war crime and violated the ceasefire. Tank artillery is extremely powerful. It can take off an entire floor of a building or a couple of them, just destroy it. Very lethal and very powerful weaponry. Okay, and it definitely is, that right there is a violation of the ceasefire. The first one. There's more. So this is a ceasefire that the Israeli occupation signed and agreed to earlier with the Palestinian resistance, Hamas. Okay, so they violated international law right there. At about 8:45 p.m., Zionist drones conducted an airstrike on a Palestinian resistance post, killing 2 freedom fighters and injuring 3 people in central Gaza. This is another severe provocation on the part of the Zionists and a severe war crime. Okay, the martyrs were Abdullah Abu Mulo, age 33, from Al-Nasrat refugee camp, and Allah al-Bubleh, age 29, from Al-Maghazi refugee camp. At 8:50, Raid Abu Ter, age 19, succumbed to his wounds inflicted during the Great Return March demonstrations. He was shot in the abdomen. This is a 19-year-old youth who was shot in the abdomen by a Zionist sniper and bled to death slowly and painfully in the hospital. Okay, now the Zionist snipers, they're trained, obviously, in their war crimes, and they oftentimes will target areas of the body that did not kill the person right away, but may cause them to, suffer and die slowly and die later, so that it will not be recorded at the time when the news is breaking. That way less people will see it. Very sick, but this is what they're doing. This is what they're trained in. They're trained killers, trained criminals. So at 8:55 p.m., 5 minutes later, the Joint Operation Room of the Palestinian resistance factions released a statement that they will, quote, never stand still to Israel's atrocious crimes against the Palestinian people. At 10:51, Palestinian Ministry of Health reported that 150 civilians were wounded by Zionist forces at the Great Return March demonstrations. At 11:15 p.m., Gaza was under attack by Zionist military airstrikes, possibly sooner than that, but there were no reports before then. People began tweeting. Omar Greb, for example, tweeted from the besieged Gaza Strip that Zionists were attacking the middle and southern areas of Gaza and through airstrikes and tank shelling. There were 6 injuries reported in the north. Now, when they're under fire, sometimes the Palestinian media cannot translate material into English. They're reporting in both Arabic, and then when they can, they translate into English. They're really good. I mean, they did an amazing job. But sometimes there's a slight delay on reports. So, but I'm piecing this together from all of these reports come from the Ministry of Health in Gaza, the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza, and from Palestinian media. They are official. So, at some time Friday evening, Hamas and the Palestinian resistance retaliated with rocket fire. Although that's not confirmed yet, whether it was Friday evening or whether it was on Saturday. I didn't hear anything about rocket fire on Friday evening. And in fact, when I looked at Israeli reports in the Times of Israel, they acknowledged that Hamas rockets were not fired until Saturday. So, here we go. So I'm not sure if it was Friday evening or if it was Saturday afternoon or evening. So I will update that later in the comments when I receive that information. Okay, so Friday activities in the we're gonna jump over to the West Bank now, in the occupied Palestinian territories of the West Bank on Friday afternoon. 7 civilians were injured by Zionist occupation militants, including a child, during marches in Kafir Kadum on the outskirts of Kalkilia in the occupied West Bank. Also in the afternoon, Zionist militants violently attacked 125 Jewish activists, many of them foreign solidarity activists who came to al-Arayas area in Yatta refugee camp to rehabilitate a road that provides access to urgent necessities like water, hospitals, and schools in southern Hebron. Elisa Rubin was among 17 people in the group who were abducted by Zionist militants under the pretext of an arrest. Also abducted were North American Jews, Israeli activists, Palestinians, and journalists. Elisa tweeted on Saturday that the IDF, she said, the IDF exists only to protect the occupation, not Jews, and that the occupation does not make anyone safer. Couldn't agree more. All right, back to Gaza. So now we are at on Saturday in the AM, May 4th, okay? At this point, Gaza was under severe airstrikes from the Zionist forces. Hold on. All right. So, at midnight, Zionist forces murdered 22-year-old Imad Nasir after targeting a group of civilian youth who were gathered together outside. They were probably targeted by a drone strike, although that is was not specified in the report by Wafa al-Udani. At 1 a.m., Ramzi Abo, age 31, succumbed to his wounds inflicted by Zionists Friday evening during the Great Return March. So this is the second person from the Great Return March to be martyred at 1 a.m. By 1:20 a.m., the occupation's Iron Dome failed to intercept a resistance missile. So by this time, the resistance was firing, and I think that they began on Saturday after midnight. So it fell into a criminal colonist home within an illegal Zionist colony inside the occupied Palestinian territories. Gaza, no one was harmed. Gaza was bombed all night long, all across the Strip. Palestinian media did not get any rest. Hello, Ayed, welcome. They didn't get any rest Friday night, and they continued reporting all day Saturday without sleep. By sunrise on Saturday morning, 4 Palestinians had been martyred. The Zionist occupation attack was planned in advance, and here is proof positive of premeditated murder of innocent civilians. This was not a, quote, war on Hamas, as the media says. It was another massacre of civilians and predominantly an attack on civilian infrastructure. There was an article in Tikkun Olam written by Richard Silverstein, and I'm going to read just a little bit of it, not all of it. You guys can check it out later, yourselves. It's a very, very fascinating article. It's titled "Breaking: IDF Plans Gaza Invasion in May. Military Censor Squelches Report." So, let's see. This was March 26th. Okay, so about a month, a few weeks ago. So, the Saturday prior to this, Ynet News posted a detailed account of IDF war plans against Gaza. The report was called Hamas, The Clock is Ticking, and it was written in Hebrew and published in Hebrew. So obviously, it was meant only for their Zionist audience, okay, and not for the rest of the Goyim. So, the article by Ron Ben Yishai, known as a devout military reporter, stenographer, recounts that the new Army Chief of Staff, Aviv Kochavi, sounds Russian, doesn't it? Readied his forces for an all-out invasion. The original story uses the term, quote, major battle, of Gaza towards the end of May. Pre-planned, premeditated murder. Yeah, Dan Frank is welcome to join the live stream if he wants to come in. Just leave a comment if you're here, Dan. I'll bring you in for sure. But it's a lot of information to go through, but you're welcome. It's always nice to have you with me, Dan. Okay. And I will be doing more live streams. I have a lot of information and things that I've been doing a lot of research, and I have a lot of presentations on different subjects. But anyway, this is for Palestine first. Okay, so they were planning a major strike on Gaza by the end of May. Conveniently, the assault would be timed for a month after the national election, just after Independence Day, and would offer options to either election victor Netanyahu or Benny Gantz. So we know Netanyahu won. But the funny thing happened on the way to the internet. The IDF censor stripped the original article with elements which identified when the attack was likely. Maybe we shouldn't have spilled the beans. Darf. Instead of the specific date of the month of May following Independence Day, the censored version talks about the beginning of summer. What follows are a few quotations and a summary of the original. Okay, so he has the document of the original uncensored article he uploaded on a Word doc. This is written by Richard Silverstein. He is the founder of Tikkun Olam. Okay. And I can post this into the comments of this live stream after I finish, so people can read the whole article. So anyway, this is, he says, I specifically included quotations so you can get a sense of the utter condescension of Israeli media and their military towards Hamas. This is an Israeli defending Hamas, okay? I mean, who knows the politics better than somebody who was born there? All right. So much respect to Richard Silverstein. Sorry for the shaking. Much respect to him, because if it wasn't for him and his whistleblowing, we would not know about this. Now we know this is proof positive. This was premeditated murder. Okay? Now, back to the report. All right, just a little bit of, to lift up our spirits here for a moment. This assault on the Gaza Strip has I can't imagine how Zionists can be so short-sighted. to not realize the consequences of their own actions. I mean, that is just real ignorance. Like, they didn't think that this was going to reflect negatively on the Eurovision contest, that's being held in the Israeli occupied Palestine. So on the positive note, the Eurovision Song Contest is turning into a complete flop for Israel, at the fault of the occupation's war criminal leaders and the predominantly psychopathic Israeli society. Artists sorry, I know not as all Israelis are psychopathic. It's just that the majority of them seem to be. So, I'm not being discriminatory here. Artists are canceling their performances. The seats are empty as tickets are not selling. Hotels are not being booked, and airlines are reporting there is no bump up in sales to Tel Aviv. Yay! Great job, everybody. Good job, BDS. Also, Palestinian artists, the LGBTQ groups, and over 100,000 people worldwide have signed on to the boycott of Eurovision 2019. So, this is a big victory. That is on a positive note. Another thing, very interesting, is that Op Israel has been going on. Okay? And so the Zionist occupation created rumors to try to boost up popularity, probably boost up Netanyahu, whatever, his party, and his, to boost their popularity. They fabricated this fantasy, and it's so funny, and we're going to get into that too. So the Op Israel campaign, which was launched by Anonymous, it has been very successful. And within 24 hours, there were 24 million attacks on Israel, okay, after launching the campaign. So the occupation is still being attacked by Anonymous right now. And I'm going to share some. Oh, yeah. So what does Israel do? They try to, they release information into Forbes magazine. Okay, I put this, I'm going to talk about this now and then get back to the timeline of crimes against humanity in Gaza, because this is really funny. And I just want to lift everybody's spirits, and I want to make sure that, people see this. So in Forbes magazine, excuse me. Obviously, I'm not fasting, but Ramadan Kareem to everybody. Yeah, I did fast the last 2 years, and it's really hard in Finland because there's only 2.5 hours of a break where you can eat and enjoy. And I've been enduring a lot of stress, so I decided not to put more stress on my body anyway. But, solidarity. Okay, and let's see. So, Forbes magazine. Israel retaliates to a cyber attack with immediate physical action in a world first. That's the title of the article. Okay. Israel claims this is so funny, I'm already laughing. All right. The Israeli Defense Forces they claim they launched a physical attack on Hamas in immediate response to an alleged cyber assault. All right, this was published May 6th. The IDF hit a building in the Gaza Strip with an airstrike after claiming the site had been used by Hamas cyber operatives to attack Israel's cyberspace. It came amid days of intense fighting between the IDF and terror groups in the Gaza Strip, says Forbes magazine. The IDF claimed it stopped the attack online before launching its airstrike on Hamas. It claims it has now wiped out Hamas' cyber operational capabilities. And they even tweeted, the Israeli Defense Force tweeted, quote, "We thwarted an attempted Hamas cyber offensive against Israeli targets. Following our successful cyber defensive operation, we targeted a building where the Hamas cyber operatives work. And they have been removed." Okay, this is all fantasy, by the way. Complete fantasy. I checked with all the Palestinian media, and no, it's just fabricated. absolutely. This was just absolutely a lie that Forbes published. Didn't even check with the Palestinian people or Palestinian press or anything. Just went on and published it and discredited themselves. Yeah, no, Hamas does not have those kinds of cyber capabilities. I mean, and the Op Israel, it's not coming from Hamas. But I think that this was also Israel's attempt to boost their popularity, but also an attempt to discredit Anonymous and to try to somehow link the Op Israel and Anonymous cyber attack on the Israeli occupation and link it to Hamas somehow to try to discredit Anonymous. I've also checked with Anonymous, and they've not been working with Hamas in Op Israel, not at all. So this is 100% fabricated. So anyway, but the article goes on to say that this would mark a change in modern cyber warfare tactics, given that it is the first time a cyber attack has been met with immediate physical retaliation in real time during active conflict. Oh, there they go. Conflict. No, these are war crimes and crimes against humanity. So anyway, yeah, that is unprecedented, right? I mean, wow. So now, Israel wants to justify taking out a civilian building. Maybe they're referring to, they don't even say which building it is, right? Maybe they're referring to the building that had Anadolu News Agency in it. Well, there were 3 news agencies that were buildings with news agencies in them in Gaza that were destroyed. So, who knows what they mean? But they couldn't tell. Come on, where's the proof? Where's the proof? So anyway, that's kind of funny. I got a chuckle out of that. Okay. All right. Back to the Zionist occupation's bank of targets. Okay. So Saturday, May 4th. I suppose that Palestinian media was sleeping in the afternoon, getting some sleep, and then they started reporting again. Or maybe I was sleeping, and then I started reporting again in the afternoon. But I was reporting to Twitter. They couldn't get me banned there. So I was reporting around the clock, everything, all the breaking news. I would have been doing that to Facebook too, but they got me banned. So around 4 p.m., by Saturday afternoon, 1 Palestinian was martyred and 7 more were wounded in Israeli airstrikes. Ghassan Katbeh says Gaza is besieged by Israel, Egypt, and the Palestinian Authority, and the goal is to eliminate the last strongholds of resistance. Absolutely true. Thank you. And that's exactly what we find in the deal of the century. That's what they want to do. They want to disarm Hamas. They're trying to entice the Palestinian people with money, with a new state in the Sinai desert, all this kind of stuff, providing them jobs and this, that, the other. But it's a horrible deal, and the Palestinian people will never go for it. So, all right, but that's a very, very good point, and we will touch upon that a little bit down in this report. So by the afternoon, by 4 p.m., Zionist warplanes targeted a house, and probably not everything, and not all of the crimes and not all of the war crimes are in this report. But this is just all what we got from the Palestinian media, who worked tirelessly to, translate as many reports as they possibly could to us in English. Okay. So, let's see. So, at 4 p.m., a house was targeted and demolished east of Deir al-Balah, belonging to a family in central Gaza. By 4:50 p.m., Palestinian resistance factions, including Hamas, declared, quote, "The firing of rockets in retaliation to Israel's aggression is justified and a legal reaction to Zionist atrocious crimes against humanity that violate international law and human rights of the occupied civilians of Palestine." True that. Okay. It's true. It's true. Hamas rockets are justified. There was artillery strikes, 3 artillery shells fired into Gaza Friday evening, and a drone strike on a Palestinian resistance post, which killed 2 people and wounded 3 more. So these are war crimes. These are violations of the ceasefire. Whatever Hamas, the democratically elected ruling body of Gaza, decides to do, and the Palestinian resistance decide to do, they're fully justified. They're fully justified. Resistance is all right. So at 5:15 p.m., the occupation, and I'm going to get into that too. I'm going to talk more about exactly what does Hamas target. I've got the list of all of the settlements names. All the details are in this report, trust me. At 5:15, the occupation shut down all barrier crossings with the besieged Gaza Strip. Sometime Saturday afternoon, Israel staged, this was so disgusting. This was reported by CNN. The Israeli Society staged a Holocaust memorial remembrance media stunt in Israeli occupied territory, okay? To draw attention to their narcissistic selves and draw the public attention away from the occupation's war crimes against civilians within the besieged Gaza Strip. So, the Israelis stood in silence for 5 minutes. I think it was 5 minutes. Stopping their vehicles in traffic, honking their horns, just holding them down for 5 minutes. People got out of their vehicles and stood on the freeway, still and silent. They stood on the sidewalks, motionless. And CNN did a big story on this, while the occupation was targeting civilian infrastructure in Gaza. So you see, this is how the Zionist society, the majority of them, work in tandem with the occupation to help the occupation commit these crimes. Okay, by 6:55 p.m. Saturday, 4 people were wounded in Zionist airstrikes east of Gaza City. That was when an 18-month-old toddler named Saba Abu Arar was martyred, along with her 37-year-old pregnant mother, Palestine Abu Arar, who was martyred from a blow to her head in Al-Zatoun. Her infant also was martyred. Later on, the Israeli occupation claimed that they were killed by a misfired Hamas rocket, which of course Palestinian resistance denies. And obviously that is just a way of them not having to take responsibility for this war crime. By 7:30 p.m., the joint operation. Sorry, I did turn off my notifications, but maybe I didn't do it right or something. The Joint Operation Room of the Palestinian resistance factions took responsibility for dozens of projectiles fired out of the occupied Palestinian territory on Saturday, of besieged Gaza on Saturday, in response to the occupation killing of protesters and freedom fighters. Hi, Samuel. This was reported by Ben White from Middle East Monitor. At 8:20 p.m., another residential high-rise named Iktifan was destroyed by Zionist airstrikes. The 5-story building had a news station inside it called Anadolu News Agency. Sorry, getting notifications. All right, so this building, 5-story building, had a news agency inside it, named Anadolu News Agency. This is a severe war crime. This particular airstrike war crime was condemned by Turkey's President Erdogan. Around 8:50 p.m., Zionists struck a residential high-rise building named Al-Sarraj, leveling it to dust west of Gaza City. By 9:20 p.m., an Israeli military spokesperson said their occupation forces had bombed 120 targets in Gaza since the night before, Friday night. since Friday night. So this is the Israeli spokesperson saying that 120 rockets from Hamas had been fired towards their illegal colonies. All right. By 10:36, whereas, oh, I don't like it when people call me when I'm in the middle of a live stream and and you can see that I'm live streaming. Don't do that. Okay. I'm back. Can you guys see me? I'm very sorry. I'll just sorry about that. Okay, resuming. This is a new phone, and I did turn off notifications, but I don't know what happened. I may have not done it right or something. Ooh, okay. Where was I? So, around 8:50 p.m., Zionists struck a residential high-rise building named Al-Sarraj, leveling it to dust west of Gaza City. Now, these high-rise buildings have residential, it had homes in it. By 9:20 p.m., an Israeli military... Oh, okay, so sorry. So the report, so comparing... Right, so it's... So... Sorry, I got distracted. But the Joint Operation Room of the Palestinian Resistance factions took responsibility for dozens of projectiles into the Israeli occupied territories. Okay? That is in contrast to this Israeli report that said there was the Israeli spokesperson who says that oh, yeah, well, anyway, they were claiming oh my gosh, they claimed at one point 450 Hamas rockets were fired into, towards Israeli colonies, illegal colonies. And that, of course, is a lie. I don't believe that many according to Palestinian media reports, there weren't that many rockets fired. But to the Israelis, it may seem like that because the Iron Dome, actually what they do is they have their own rockets that go up and explode. They make really loud sound and explode so that they can strike more fear into people. That's what they want. By Israel over-reporting Hamas rockets, they're striking fear into the Israeli people. And I guess they want that because that way, psychologically, then the Israeli people will rally behind their leaders because that's human nature to look towards your leaders to protect you, right? So anyway, that's just a little psychological warfare there. All right. All right. So by 9:20, the Israeli military spokesperson said their occupation forces had bombed 120 targets in the besieged Gaza Strip the night before on Friday night. Okay. By 10:36 p.m., Palestinian Ministry of Health reported that 4 people had been killed by Zionist airstrikes and 30 people wounded so far. Hi, Miriam and Eileen. Welcome. I'm going through a timeline. I do recommend watching this live stream from the beginning, and there's some facts and information. I just compiled everything into this report. And I'm going through the timeline because I want to show, I'm so, tired of the propaganda and the blaming of Hamas, using Hamas as an excuse to kill civilians. This was premeditated murder. And, we went over that earlier in this live stream. But so this report proves without a shadow of a doubt that the Israeli occupation is 100% responsible for these crimes and the assault on Gaza. And Hamas was retaliating to their aggression. Okay. By 11:15 p.m., Zionist warplanes destroyed another high-rise named Al Ramoz building in Al Nasser, northwest of Gaza City, which had many office buildings within it and family homes. Now, all of these reports, for those who are just joining, they come from the Ministry of Health and from Palestinian media. So they are official reports. It's not just, citizens reporters. It's actual media and ministry. Also, probably not every crime that was committed is in this report, but all of the reports from Palestinian media are here. What they could translate to our team. Okay. Before midnight Saturday evening, the UN released a statement that it's, quote, deeply concerned about Israel's escalation. As they should be. Civilian buildings were targeted ceaselessly throughout the night. Okay. On Sunday, May 5th, just after midnight, so now we're going into Sunday, Zionist warplanes bombed and destroyed another residential building in Khan Yunis, displacing many families. Before 2 a.m., the Abu Zaida family home was destroyed in northern Gaza. Before 2 a.m., warplanes destroyed a house in Khan Yunis belonging to al-Mubashir family. Before 2 a.m., 2 Palestinian resistance sites were targeted, a training post in Khan Yunis and Rafah City. A total of 4 Palestinian resistance sites were targeted. Every other target was civilian. That is according to media. At 3:30 a.m., Ministry of Health reported there could be more, but these are all the only reports that we have in English. At 3:30 a.m., Ministry of Health reported a Zionist airstrike targeted a civilian youth in al-Baraji refugee camp. A group of civilian youth. So this was probably a drone strike. In al-Baraji refugee camp, killing 2 people, Mahmoud Isa, 26, and Fazi Barak, 23. But it doesn't specify if it was a drone strike or an airstrike. I mean, a drone strike is an airstrike, but it doesn't specify whether it was like a warplane or a drone plane. Okay, around 4:10 a.m., another residential high-rise building was destroyed in a targeted airstrikes. It was called the Palestine Building. And at the end of this report, I love to hear people's comments, and I will read them. Another high-rise building within a block or 2 of the Palestine Building was also targeted and destroyed. By sunrise Sunday morning, Zionists bombed Gaza Beach right in front of hotels with that housed foreign nationals. And there was a video recorded by a friend of mine. Hi, Naji. And I posted that to Twitter. Okay, so taking a look at Zionist reports. So we are in the AM on Sunday. The Times of Israel. Now I'm doing this to compare, to show you how do the Israelis report. So now you hear the Palestinian media and Ministry of Health reports. Now we're going to take a look at what Israeli reports, a little bit of what Israeli reports look like, okay? At 9:20, I'm laughing just because they're so ridiculous. All right. This is if somebody wants to analyze this, the title of this article with these reports in Times of Israel is titled, quote, amid reported truce, most schools in southern Israel to open Monday. Okay. So at 9:49 a.m., Times of Israel claimed that pregnant mother Palestine Abu Arar and her baby were killed by a, quote, failed missile launched by terror groups. So they're claiming that the Palestinian resistance, there was a misfire on a rocket and, whatever. The Zionist news channel also claimed that 430 rockets were launched from Gaza, which varies from the Palestinian, authority in Gaza, their reports on, dozens of rockets launched. So there is a big discrepancy in these reports. So this claims that these rockets were launched from Gaza towards Israeli communities, they say. But these are actually illegal Zionist outposts or colonies or settlements, as they're known, but they're actually colonies within the occupied Palestinian territory. So under international law, So, by their own admission, my gosh, I'm so sorry. The notifications are coming into my phone, and each time I get a notification, it pauses the live stream. I thought I turned it off. I'm going to have to Google, ask Mr. Google how to do it properly because it's a new phone I have. Okay, so by Israel's own admission, by Times of Israel, they said that the 430 rockets, their claim of 430 rockets, were launched from Gaza towards Israel since Saturday. There was no report of rockets being fired before that. So by their own admission, rockets were not fired towards Zionists until Saturday. Okay, so any claim that Israel was retaliating to Hamas rockets, 100% false by their own admission. And the settlements, all of the rockets, all of their reports, all of their reports from, oh my gosh, hold on, I need to find my, going down. Okay, all of Israel's reports of Hamas rockets, the Palestinian resistance rockets, because it's not just Hamas, it's, there's many factions resisting in Gaza. So they were all aimed at illegal settlement colonies within Palestinian territory, within occupied Palestinian territory. So, for example, all the reports, all of them, the Palestinian resistance rockets fell only into illegal colonies in occupied Palestinian territories. I just want to stress that. So, for example, Hof Ashkelon region, it's a colony south of it's south of Ashkelon. These are reports from Times of Israel where these rockets landed, the resistance rockets. Beersheba, Kibbutz Erez, east of North Gaza Strip. Kibbutz Erez is near Gaza. Siderit, let's see, Beersheba, I already said that. Kiryat Gat, Eshkol, Ashdod, and Kiryat Malaki. These are all the places that were mentioned. These are all illegal colonies. So Hamas 100% abided by the rules of engagement of war. They didn't commit a crime. Now, some people might say that Hamas rockets are indiscriminate, right? But, I don't know, has that been determined in a court of law? Palestinian people are allowed to use force in their resistance. That's the Fourth Geneva Convention. Okay. Now, I think that Iran and, well, okay, we'll get into that in a minute. All right, go back to my report. Where was I? Okay, so that's a comparison to, Israeli reports, right? Israeli reports are saying that these are, anyone who's pro-Israel are saying that these Hamas rockets are being fired towards Israeli communities. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're absolutely being fired into illegal colonies within the occupied Palestinian territories. What this means is that all of those people, all of the colonizers, the Zionist colonizers that come from all over the world, living in illegal settlement colonies within occupied Palestinian territories are criminals. They are committing a crime. They are committing war crimes knowingly. Anybody over 18, boom, criminal. Their children are innocent. Their children are innocent, but it's up to the parents to protect their children, isn't it? And if those colonizers are living illegally within, reach of resistance rockets, they're endangering their kids. Maybe their kids should be removed from them. They should obviously be restrained by their necks. They should be arrested and, face trial and punished for their crimes. They're criminals. So it is completely legal for the resistance to target those settlements. That is on Palestinian land, occupied Palestinian territory, according to international law. This is very important because I'm sick and tired of Hamas being used and Palestinian resistance being used to justify murder. Okay. So, another Israeli report said that it carried out airstrikes, now get this, on 30 homes belonging to Palestinian resistance members, Islamic Jihad members. These are not even Hamas. This is a faction of Palestinian resistance. Okay? 30 homes. That's an admission of war crimes right there. Under international law, you are not allowed to target the family members of these freedom fighters, because that's what they are. Of course, the Zionists call them terrorists, of course, but no, they aren't committing acts of terror. They aren't threatening anyone. They're resisting an illegal military occupation. They are exercising their universal international human right to do so. Okay? They're freedom fighters. Just like the Indians, chased out the British colonizers. They called themselves freedom fighters. Same thing. So, to target the homes of Palestinian resistance and the family members, this is collective punishment. This is a war crime by Israel's own admission. So, in this Israeli report, I'm going to read you by the quote. This is from Times of Israel. Quote, Israeli Air Force continues to strike Gaza targets in Gaza, reportedly bombing the private homes of more than 30 Hamas and Islamic Jihad mid-level commanders throughout the Strip. Admission. They claim that some of the houses were holding weapons. I say prove it. Prove it. 30 homes with weapons in them? Come on. That's not an excuse. That's not a reason to commit a war crime. So, they have to prove that. Israel makes the occupation makes all kinds of claims. And oftentimes, maybe the majority of the time, they just lie. They lie to their own people. Play them like fools. All right. This is a violation of the rules of engagement of war. Palestinian resistance homes are not legitimate military targets. You are not allowed to collectively target the homes and family members of freedom fighters. These are war crimes. Okay. I don't believe for a second that weapons were kept in these homes. I don't believe that. It's just to placate the international community, right? It's just something to report. But they need to prove it, don't they? Otherwise, it's a war crime. So, I don't think we're ever going to see proof of that because there isn't any. And the international community is so stupid to take the occupation's word as the word of God. This is what they're doing. They're taking Israel's word as the word of God. They're not checking, they're not cross-checking. They're not talking to the Palestinian people as if they don't exist. They're not checking with the media. They just take Israel's word as the word of God. It's like, wow. No critical thinking anymore. Okay, so at 3:34 a.m., a kindergarten in the southern town of Siderit, another illegal colony within occupied Palestinian territory, was hit by shrapnel from a rocket launched from the Gaza Strip overnight. Oh, a kindergarten. Well, guess what? They close. Before Hamas launches rockets, they announce it, so that the illegal colonizer criminals can take their children to safety. That's how humane they are. They don't just start launching. Okay? And, obviously, the Israeli occupation, with that prior knowledge, they closed down all the schools and opened the shelters. Okay. So, and the reason Hamas does this is because they respect international law. And from what I could see, from working with Palestinian media since 2014, and they abide by the rules of engagement of war, and they want to be taken seriously by the international community. They They take every precaution not to make a mistake. I'm watching this. I personally cannot have any direct contact with Hamas because they are deemed a terrorist organization by the US and by the EU, right? It would be putting myself into danger. I'm in the EU and I'm a US citizen. So just a disclaimer, I want to make that very clear. However, I can defend them and I do respect them. And I think that they are the best chance that Palestine has. They're the only chance. Everybody else, like Ghassan said earlier, is colluding against the Palestinian people. And Katbe says Gaza is screaming of pain, while the hypocritical mainstream media are weeping tears over Israel. Exactly. You know, after the 2014 bombing of Gaza and the 51 days of crimes against humanity that the world witnessed in horror, okay, the EU saw that Hamas was abiding by the rules of engagement of war, not just in that extermination of people, as the Russell Tribunal on Palestine called it, not just that war crime, those war crimes, an extermination of people in Gaza. It was prior to that, the previous exterminations in 2008, 2009, 2012. The EU had been watching. They're not stupid people. They know. I mean, some of them are ignorant, We have some real ignoramuses, who are so pro-Israel and Zionists, leaders that are just ugh. And I will read some of their quotes in solidarity with Israel. Okay, but they don't have their facts straight, and then they make themselves look like fools. So, all right. This is important. In 2014, in September of 2014, the EU motioned to remove Hamas from the EU terror list. And they voted on it. Of course, Zionists pressured this not to happen. There's too many Zionists in power in the EU that are, sympathetic to the criminal occupation. So they didn't succeed in passing that, but they tried. And this is a very important point because, they saw Hamas's tactics and their respect for international law. I don't know, maybe it was a move to try to, leverage something against Israel, the Israeli occupation or something like that. Who knows? But it's also acknowledges the fact that Hamas has been respecting international law and the rules of engagement of war. So now I see Hamas as a ministry of defense for the Palestinian people. I respect them, absolutely. The international community must accept them because they were democratically elected by the Palestinian people in Gaza. Yes, they were. And they have unanimous support. Yes, they do. We know this by polls. So I think the best bet that Palestine has is to support Hamas, to remove, I certainly feel much safer with them. You have to think critically, okay? Yes, the media is telling us that they're terrorists. We are so used to hearing that. But are they? Are they really? Politically speaking, the Israeli and the US and the UK arms industry are making a killing testing internationally banned weapons on innocent civilians in Gaza. Through every war, every extermination, this is what they're doing. Every extermination of people, even during the Great Return March protests, they're using internationally banned weapons. They're testing their advanced technologies. Okay? So, I mean, Israel should be on the list of, should be on the EU terror list and on the US terror list. But that's not the world we live in, right? So we know that the arms industry wants to continue to make huge extra, profits. And we know that tested weapons are worth a multitude more than untested weapons. And so this is why Hamas is on the terror list. If Hamas was removed from the terror list, then they could get backing from governments. And that's what they need. If anybody wants to complain about Hamas rockets being indiscriminate, give them better weapons so that they can have more accurate targets. They can reach farther. Because guess what, folks? They will abide by the rules of war. They can be trusted. This I can see. They have a track record. So anyway, respect to them. And I'm putting that out there, whether it makes me popular or not, I don't really care. It's my personal opinion. It's my professional opinion. It's based on what I see since 2014, since working with Palestinian people and Palestinian media. Hamas is the best chance that Palestine has. They are the only resistance. The U.S. and everybody wants to disarm them and get rid of them. But that cannot happen, because then the occupation can roll right in with tanks and do whatever they want to the besieged people in Gaza. And then they can get their hands on that oil that they so desperately want. Because the largest oil deposit in the entire region is sitting smack dab in the center of Gaza, underneath Gaza's soil. And it was discovered just recently. That's why they want to move 2 million people out of Gaza. So, let's get back to the report. Michael Bravo, anybody ever find out what that new gas was? What do you mean new gas? Like the oil field? Yeah. Well, see, the media, the mainstream media and the Zionists, they gladly put all of the attention onto the offshore oil in Gaza's waters. And they set up an oil pad and begin drilling immediately after the bombardment on Gaza in 2014. But actually, that was not the largest oil deposit. The largest oil deposit is directly under Gaza's soil. And this they were keeping secret, but there was one official who blew the whistle. And I mean, it wasn't in mainstream media, but I remember this news, clearly from 2014. It was leaked, and this is very important to understand. This is what motivates the Zionists. They are motivated by greed, lust and greed. So, all right, back to this report. So, by 11:05 p.m., this is again times of Israel. The Israeli UK embassy slammed the Independent news channel in the UK for, quote, ignoring IDF claims on Gazan family death. So they were pissed off that, well, here, I'll just read the statement from the Israeli embassy in the United Kingdom denounces a headline and article in the Independent news website accepting as fact Palestine's claims that a pregnant woman and her 14-month-old baby were killed by an Israeli airstrike. So they are pissed off that this article just accepted Palestinian reports. Whoa, God forbid, right? I mean, that's real journalism, right? They actually interviewed Palestinian media. Wow. But it gets... So Israel said the deaths were caused by a malfunctioning rocket, right? We covered that earlier, by the resistance. They claim that it fell short of their target inside Gaza. Complete BS. The embassy spokesperson slammed the, quote, shameful reporting and accused the British paper of, quote, buying into Hamas propaganda. But listen to this. The title of the article is this, quote, mother and baby killed as Israel responds with airstrikes after rockets fired from the Gaza Strip. Oops, they got that wrong. And that right there, they lose their credibility because that's a lie. That is a blatant lie. And this report that absolutely proves it. So It's actually shameful reporting on the part of Independent. I mean, maybe they didn't know. Maybe they're just so brainwashed and so used to hearing what everybody else hears. It's always Hamas. It's, Hamas, 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 right? But actually, no. It's always Israel, Israel, Israel. The Zionists, Zionists, Zionists. They're always the ones committing war crimes. And, actually, I have never seen Hamas fire rockets first before an aerial bombardment from the Israeli occupation. Never. Yes, there have been rockets fired from Gaza by Salafist groups, extremist groups. There aren't very many of them. And of course, then the Palestinian authorities in Gaza have to deal with that. And they deal with traitors and, treasonous people severely, as they should. They're in a state of war. Any government does the same. Okay, so let's get back to the timeline. Okay, so Michael Bravo is talking about the CS gas. It's not CR gas. It is a new form of tear gas, orange and green. Yeah, they had many different color gases that they were using during the Great Return March. There was even a white gas. They were being dropped from drones, and it was in tear gas canisters, but it wasn't tear gas. You're not allowed to use nerve agents in tear gas. Then it's a different kind of weapon. But they disguise it to look like tear gas, and most of the media just reported tear gas because they just take Israel's word as God's word, right? It's the Zionists are the word of the Israeli occupation, the word of God. So, all right, back to, where are we? This is again on Sunday evening, at 11:05 p.m. Hi, Isa. Oh, it's Iftar. Happy Iftar. Good. Ramadan Kareem. Okay, so the Times of Israel reports, wait, where am I? Okay, so now we're in the afternoon now, on Sunday, 12:40 p.m. Czech Republic, this is of course Palestine time. Czech Republic, Romania, Albania, and Belgium condemn Gaza rocket fire on Israel. Wow. Said nothing in defense of the Palestinian people, nothing in condemnation of Israeli war crimes against the besieged Gaza Strip. Okay, so these were tweets, by the way. So it was reported by the Times of Israel, but I did confirm it. I saw the tweets. So yes, they actually did. They actually did support Israel, defend Israel, and not Palestinians. Shameful. Okay, at 1:30 p.m., senior PLO official Hanan Ashwari said, quote, and I love this woman, from the Palestinian Liberation Organization. She says, quote, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's assault campaign is a cynical attempt to inflict pain and terrorize the captive Palestinians of Gaza for political gains during his coalition negotiations. Targeting defenseless civilians is criminal and morally reprehensible and must be condemned unequivocally, she says in a statement posted on the PLO website. True that. And interestingly, the Times of Israel did report this. Okay, so at 1:30 p.m., they reported Hanan Ashwari's statement, maybe to try to look like they're not biased. I don't know. By 1:30 p.m., another house belonging to Abu Shala family in Khan Yunis was destroyed and 2 people were martyred. So imagine this for a moment, right? This is a family inside their home. They're in their own home in Gaza, where they have nowhere else to go. Where are they supposed to flee to? Obviously, were not given warning. They were just bombed. They were just murdered in their home. Horrible, horrific war crimes. And these leaders of Czech Republic, Romania, Albania, Belgium had the audacity to condemn Gazans and defend Israeli war crimes and atrocities. Horrible. Okay, so at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon on Sunday, trying to get down into the sun there because it looks cool. 2 p.m. Palestinian Resistance Al-Qassam Brigade targeted and destroyed an Israeli military jeep near the apartheid barrier using a vector-oriented missile. So they proved that their weapons can extend farther than before. And they have a lot further. They have sorry, this is a new assortment of weapons that they were able to show what they could do. All right, later, they released footage that showed that. Okay, so then they released footage of this strike, proving that they could have targeted a train filled with civilians or other civilian vehicles, but instead they targeted a military one. They released the footage to show to the world that they have humanity and they do not target civilians. The military vehicle was moving. Okay, so yeah, but Israel denied this and said that it was a civilian car. All right, by 2:30 p.m. Sunday afternoon, 9 people had been killed and 80 wounded, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health in besieged Gaza. By 2:40 p.m., the home belonging to the Minder Mushtaha family in Gaza City was destroyed by warplanes. Of course, these are Palestinian media reports, not Israeli. I'm just going in a timeline order. By 3:20 p.m., Ministry of Health reported that Hamed Abed al-Qudari, age 34, was assassinated and 3 more injured when Zionist jets targeted his car in Al-Sadra, Gaza City, bringing the death toll to 10 martyrs and 83 injured. Also at 3:20 p.m., Barej refugee camp was targeted and bombed in central Gaza. At 3:50 p.m., agricultural lands were being bombed near Absan village east of Khan Yunis. At 4 p.m., government media offices reported that Zionists had carried out about 150 airstrikes and artillery shelling, targeting 200 civilian landmarks, including residential buildings, mosques, shops, media institutions. At 4:15 p.m., Zionist naval forces opened fire on Gaza from coastal waters, while continuing to bomb civilian homes in the east of Gaza. So imagine that. They're bombing on the eastern side of Gaza, and at the same time, they're striking the western coast of Gaza from naval warships, weapons, advanced weapons that Palestinians don't have. Okay. At 4:30 p.m., now this is shameful, you guys need to hear this. UN envoy Nikolai E. Mladenov releases a tweet condemning Hamas rocket fire, stating, quote, "I condemn the continuing launching of rockets from Gaza. Enough Palestinians and Israeli lives have been lost, people injured, houses damaged and destroyed." Whose houses? Palestinian people, and not the Israelis, the colonizers. Their houses were, any of the damage in the settlement colonies was really minor. I saw the photographs. I looked at all of them. It's nothing. It's like little scratches. Okay? Sorry to say. I mean, yeah, there were people killed. There were 4 Israelis killed, but they were all illegal colonizers. They were criminals. It's warranted. Absolutely. Okay. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't call for, the death of anybody, but in a situation like this, in a context of war, yes, it is. It's warranted. And international law, yes, it is. So, he's condemning the Palestinian people. Shame on you. Shame on you, Nikolai E. Mladenov. Shame on you. Shame on you. This is a lie. You, I mean, are you that ignorant? Are you really that ignorant that you don't know the facts? Or are you lying for Israel? Which is it? Okay, so yeah, condemning the Palestinian people and defending Israel. Then he says it is time to de-escalate and return to the understandings of the past few months before it is too late. So anyway, by 4:50 p.m., Zionist warplanes shelled Al-Rantisi resistance site in northern Gaza. Hi, Omar. Nice to see you too. Welcome. I have more live streams to do, a lot of them. I'm going to talk about satanic ritual abuse in my next live stream. I've got a lot of information on that, and I did a big presentation on Twitter, but people were not used to me live streaming from there, so there wasn't very many a big audience. So I'm going to do it again from Facebook in the maybe in the next few days when I feel like it. Okay, but this was top priority. We need this information. We need to counter the lies. So, okay, so they bombed Al-Rantisi resistance site. So this is the fourth. Now we're on the fourth target of a resistance site in Gaza. Okay, it's only four reports. There were only 4 Palestinian resistance sites targeted and bombed in Gaza. Everything else was civilian. Okay, anyway, okay. So at 4:50 p.m., a warning missile struck the governor's palace in central Gaza City, followed by a larger missile that completely destroyed it 10 to 15 minutes later. Okay. By 5:45 p.m., agricultural lands east of Al-Barej refugee camp were bombed. A resistance site in Al-Qarara village east of Khan Yunis was destroyed. Oh, I think that's the fourth one. And another residential high-rise building named Khazar al-Hakim was destroyed west of Gaza City. So another high-rise building with homes in it. At 5:50 p.m., a drone strike on Al-Barej refugee camp left 2 martyrs, Mohammed Abu Aramana, age 30, and his cousin Mahmoud Abu Aramana, age 27, in central Gaza, bringing the martyred toll to 12 and 105 wounded. So by 5:55 p.m., this is on Sunday, Zionist forces bombed and destroyed Qasr al-Hakim building in central Gaza City, another large building. At 6 p.m., the homes belonging to the Shami family in Khan Yunis were leveled to the ground. 6:22 p.m., Zionists bombed and demolished a residential high-rise apartment building called Zarub Tower in the center of Rafah, killing Mosa Mammar, 24 years old. So you see, they're bombing buildings. People don't have time to even get out. They're not safe in the streets. Groups of youth were targeted, by drones and by airstrikes. When they were outside of the buildings, they're targeted inside the buildings. I mean, where is it safe? At 7:02 p.m., IDF says it thwarted. That's when on Sunday at 7:02 p.m. on Sunday, the IDF says it thwarted a Hamas cyber attack. Okay, this was to boost their ratings, their popularity. Of course, that was completely false. And that was what was published in Forbes magazine. I will also post that in the comments. But it was kind of funny how they spin their lies. They said, the military said that the Israeli military said that much of the information about the so-called attempted cyber attack, could not be published, as it would reveal to Hamas details about Israel's cyber capabilities. So this is when they were trying to boost their popularity, the Netanyahu party, and try to link somehow Anonymous's Op Israel campaign against the occupation, and somehow try to link that with Hamas to discredit them, right? This is what they're doing, psychological warfare. Okay, at 7:10 p.m., another residential building in Beit Lahia was destroyed, killing 3 civilians, including a pregnant mother who was in her 9th month and her unborn baby. 7:15 p.m., an airstrike in the center of Rafah martyred 51-year-old Ali Abd al-Jawad. And forgive me if I'm saying these names wrong. I'm doing my best. At 7:34 p.m., Zionist warplanes targeted a motorcyclist on Salah al-Din Street near Khan Yunis. He was driving down the road, minding his own business, probably going to the mosque. Right? Okay, at this point, the death toll rose to 18 with 146 wounded, as the health ministry reported. 8 p.m., Zionists bombed a residential building in northern Gaza, completely destroying the 4th and 5th floor. Many were wounded and martyred inside the strike. By 8:54, the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza reported 3 more martyrs, including an infant, 8 people injured in the airstrike. In that airstrike in northern Gaza. Maria al-Ghazali, age 4 months old, was the infant killed. Ahmed al-Ghazali, age 31, and Iman Usrif, age 30, were martyred. So, not everybody had time to get out. By 8:40, Al-Amani al-Madoun, 33, age 33, was killed, along with 2 other men, one of them a relative in Beit Lahia. She was 9 months pregnant. Okay, so she is a female, and she was also... Am I repeating something here? No. Okay, I think I already read that. All right, so by 9:45 p.m., Israeli naval forces again opened fire at Palestinian homes from Gaza's coastal waters. By this time, 25 people were martyred and 246 wounded. The bombing continued all through the night. By 3:29 a.m., Zionist warplanes targeted a house belonging to Abu Aisha family in Nusrat refugee camp in central Gaza. By 10:40 p.m., Iyad Abdullah al-Shuraihi, age 34, was killed in an airstrike east of al-Maghazi, central Gaza. At this point, the Times of Israel reported that the Irish foreign minister condemns indiscriminate... Now get this. They're always condemning the Palestinian people first. But it's the Israelis that committed these atrocious crimes and that violated the ceasefire. So what the hell, folks? Come on, leaders, get it together. Be accurate, be honest, stop lying for Israel. So Irish foreign minister condemns indiscriminate rocket fire from Gaza and urges Israeli restraint. Quote, I unequivocally, now I don't know, I didn't see the tweet, so maybe this is not true, because we know the Israelis lie, but they claim, okay, that, quote, she said, or she, I don't know, whether it's a male or a female, the Irish foreign minister, quote, I unequivocally condemn the indiscriminate rocket fire from Gaza over the last 2 days, which has led to civilian deaths and injuries. He said in a statement, so he's male. He continues, these actions undermine the cause of the Palestinian people. Okay. That's his opinion. The unjust treatment of Gaza and the suffering of people there will never be solved by violence or terrorist attacks. Sorry, but self-defense is not terrorism. And yes, I know, the only potential mistake that the Palestinian resistance makes is having indiscriminate rockets. So I say, give them more weapons. Give them accurate missiles. Anyway, they're only targeting the illegal colonies. Settlement colonies. They're not targeting civilians, okay? They're targeting criminals. The illegal settlers, the colonizers, are criminals. When they turn 18, they are an legal adult. They are, under international law, knowingly committing a war crime by living on the occupied Palestinian territories, by stealing Palestinian land. They willfully choose to do that and to live there. They are fair game targets. Okay? I want to make that clear. Get your facts straight, leaders. Please. This is the reason I did this live stream, because I want everybody to be on the same page. There is so much propaganda and lies, and I don't know how anybody keeps it straight. And somebody gave that feedback to me and said that, with all the reports coming out of Gaza and this, there is, a lack of a mastering of the English language from the Palestinian people. Naturally, they're in a besieged enclave. Okay, they're cut off from the rest of the world. There's hardly any native English speakers there for them to practice with. They absolutely do the best that they can, and they do an incredible, incredible job, I have to say. I am so proud of them. But language is a barrier. Mainstream media, 96% of the mainstream media is owned by Zionist Israelis. I mean, there's so much stacked against the Palestinian people, but we have truth on our side. We have righteousness on our side. And I made this report so that the facts could be presented, so that people could learn from them. You don't have to listen to mainstream media. It's almost a bunch of hogwash and lies. Don't ever believe Israeli reports. Don't ever take Israeli reports for face value. What is Mossad's motto, right? Let's refresh that. Let's revisit that. Quote, "By deception thou shalt do war." That is their motto. That is what they live and die for. That's what they believe in. Okay? They're Decepticons. I had to say that. They're Decepticons, man. They're deceivers. And they have no respect for international law and no respect for anyone. So these are the facts, folks. We should not in any way, shape, or form, no one should be condemning the Palestinian people under these circumstances. No one. They are using whatever weapons they have to defend themselves, and they're justified in it. I used to think like other people. I used to actually think, when I began working with Palestinian media, my opinion was different. I thought that Hamas should never fire rockets. I thought that was something that was undermining the cause, undermining the freedom of the Palestinian people. Now I've spun a 180, and I think absolutely opposite. We need to give them more arms. We need to take Hamas off the EU terror list. That Hamas is the best bet that the Palestinian people have. In 2014, they took a stand and they said, you know what? They threw their hands up at the negotiation table in Egypt, and they said, you know what? We're not going to negotiate the Palestinian people's human rights anymore. We're walking away. We're done. Do what you want. Human rights are not negotiable. And they left, and they went back to Gaza, and instead of, negotiating how far can fishermen fish out in their own waters, they were forced into a position to negotiate human rights. And then they said, no, we're done. We're done with this. We're going to try a new tactic now. And by stepping back and refusing to cooperate in the Zionist game, okay, in this disgraceful game, because human rights are not negotiable, international law should be respected, it provided an opportunity for the world to see the brutality of this occupation. And I think it astonished the world. The world watched in horror at what the Zionists did to the Palestinian people in Gaza. Now, I think that Hamas is the best bet that Palestine has. I think that Palestine absolutely needs to be armed, has a right to have a military force. I see Hamas as a ministry of defense. I absolutely respect them. I absolutely acknowledge them. I acknowledge the Palestinian people's right to elect whom they choose to rule them. And that should be respected by the international community. I'm done with this Zionist ideology. And if you think otherwise, you're brainwashed. Okay, you've been brainwashed. That's just it. The truth is human rights and international law comes first, above all the brainwashing. So Palestinians have a right to arm themselves. They have a right to launch rockets, even if they're indiscriminate, because they're launching those rockets at illegal colonies. They are not targeting civilians with them. So whether they're discriminate or not doesn't matter, because their target is criminals, occupiers. So I think we should I think EU leaders need to rally and remove Hamas from the EU terror list and give the Palestinian people a chance to survive. Because we know that the deal of the century from the United States Zionist regime is never, ever going to produce anything fruitful. Okay? So take Hamas off the EU terror list, give them weapons, then Iran could back them easier. Give them better weapons. Give them missiles that can hit the mark, that can hit the target. Let the Palestinian people defend themselves. That's what I say. That's my opinion. That's my professional opinion too. Okay. All right, let's see. Where are we now? 9:53 p.m. Sunday evening. 2 IDF militants were reportedly injured in mortar resistance attacks near Gaza perimeter fence. 10:05 p.m. UN Security General Antonio Guterres condemns in the strongest terms the launching of rockets from Gaza into Israel, particularly the targeting of civilian population centers, in a UN statement. I didn't see that statement. This was reported by Times of Israel. I'm taking their word for it because I can't imagine they would lie about a UN report or a UN statement. They can lie about other stuff, but UN statements, they can get caught on that, right? So I think that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres really did say this. And shame on you. Shame on you. Because this is absolutely the opposite of truth. This is a lie. And either you are ignorant or you are repeating, you are believing in and defending lies. Okay? And this does no justice to the Palestinian people. When we condemn them for the crimes of the Zionists, we are doing an injustice to the Palestinian cause, aren't we? Contributing to their murder. So, way to go there, Guterres. You're a scumbag. I don't know. I mean, I don't know you, okay? But maybe you have a chance to redeem yourself after you see this broadcast. I don't know. Let's see. But that's shameful. That's shameful. Shame on you. You should know better. You are in the UN. You are a leader. You have influence. You need to know the facts. Either that or you are compromised and you are a Zionist and you are with the agenda. Ah! So, sorry, getting a little heated up there. All right. So, how about we condemn Israel for their crimes against humanity for a change? Huh? He also, quote, urges all parties to exercise maximum restraint. Huh. Immediately de-escalate and return to the understandings of the past few months, it says. Sorry. I'm so angry. I'm so angry at the ignorance. This is a UN official that doesn't know his nose from his butt. You know? My God, doesn't even know the facts. Oh, what? These are our leaders. Whoa. What are we supposed to do? So I don't know. I'm sorry. I'll calm down. Maybe he has a chance to redeem himself. I don't know him. I haven't really been following his statements or anything like that. But, maybe he's just ignorant. And this broadcast is an opportunity for him to learn the facts. But there is no excuse. Yeah, UN is not obviously not doing their job. Obviously. Obviously. Stop listening to Israeli reports. They're liars. Or these are Zionist people themselves. In the UN, that's quite possible. So, just to rehash, all of Hamas rockets that landed in Israeli occupied territories were in illegal colonies. Rawr! They all based on Israeli reports, based on the Times of Israel's reports, all of them. Therefore, Hamas was abiding by the rules of engagement of war and international law, bar none. I'm sick and tired of them being used as the excuse to murder Palestinian people. There is no excuse. Hamas committed no crime. So, these are all settlements. I named them earlier in the live stream. These are all illegal settlement colonies. This is absolutely justified to target them in self-defense. All right. Then Hamas claimed responsibility for an anti-tank missile attack that hit a military vehicle. For all we know, I'm going with the Palestinian media reports. I don't trust the Israelis at all because they lie through their teeth. And Palestinian media are credible. I've been working with them since 2014. I never saw them lie once. Not once. They're credible. They're real news. They're real media. Whoops. Sorry. All right. So let's get back to this. All right. The driver of this military vehicle was killed. This was in Kibbutz Erez, a colony, an illegal colony within the occupied Palestinian territories. Fair game. That is a justifiable, legal, fair target. If you don't want like Hamas rockets, don't live in occupied Palestinian territories where you can become a target. Don't commit a war crime. Move. Go back to where you came from. All right. Isn't it clear where okay, wait, hold on. All right. So, the interesting thing is that the Israeli reports, and this is like it catches them in lies right here. They then retracted their statement because earlier they said that this guy who was a driver in that car was died in the hospital from a rocket that landed inside of a factory in Ashkelon. And then they retracted that and they were like, well, it isn't clear whether the driver whether the driver of the car is one of the two Israelis that succumbed to their wounds. So they backtracked and they're like, well, we're not sure. Maybe it wasn't in the factory. Maybe it was actually the driver of the car. So what are they hiding? The fact that he might have been a militant, as Palestinian reports said. Okay? So when the Israelis backtrack or they put conflicting reports, they're hiding something, in my experience. Yeah, thank you, Arusa. She says, whatever picture of Hamas they show to the world, we know who Hamas is in reality and how they work. Yes. And Hamas has the majority of backing of the Palestinian people across occupied Palestine, from the West Bank and Gaza. Bar none. This is true. This is based on studies and polls that were done. So the Palestinian people have a right to elect and back whomever they want. We should support them. Who are we to tell them they can't do that? The Zionists don't like Hamas because they are a contender. Even they don't have powerful weapons. The Israeli Zionists failed at ground invasion. They can't get into Gaza and steal that oil as long as Hamas is armed, as long as there's a Palestinian resistance. So that's the game. That's the truth. All right. So anyway, I fully respect them. They're legitimate to me. as resistance. They're the Ministry of Defense for Palestine. Hamas is the Ministry of Defense from now on. That's how I see them. I respect them so much because I see them making every effort possible not to make a mistake. Hi, Dan. Nice to see you. Do you want to come into this live stream? Okay, well, I just have a couple more things to go over. If you want to come in, just let me know. I'll bring you in. All right, so 600 projectiles within... Okay, so Israel... the occupation claimed that there were 600 projectiles within 24 hours. So this is what they reported on Sunday evening. Now, I highly doubt it was that many. Okay, I'll bring you in just a minute. Mike Pompeo, his comments were, quote, he says, Israel has a right to defend itself. Oh, how original, right? A total of 4 Zionist colonizer criminals were killed. They were all within illegal colonies. And 13 illegal colonizers were wounded, all within illegal colonies. These are not civilians, folks. Just got to clarify that because even our world leaders are calling these people civilians. No, they weren't. They were criminals. They were fair game. They were living within the illegal colonies within the occupied Palestinian territory. So, under international law, they're a fair target. And that should give them a lesson. Maybe they need to move and stop being criminals. All right. At 11:50 p.m., the ceasefire was in the works. And so then U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, this is what he tweeted in support of Israel. He says, quote, "We strongly condemn the attacks in Gaza by Hamas terrorists. Israel has the absolute right to defend itself, and the U.S. stands by our great ally Israel," Pence says. Of course they do. And you are a pedophile. Well, I mean, he defends them. He's also defended... Anyway, I won't get into that. There's a journalist that exposed this. I'll get into that in another live stream. I just get angry and I want to just brrr, you know? Okay. At 3:30 a.m. Palestine time, which is daytime in the States, Trump tweets his support for Israel too. Quote, "Once again, Israel faces a barrage of deadly rocket attacks by terrorist group Hamas and Islamic Jihad. We support Israel 100% in its defense of its citizens. Speak for yourself, you douchebag." Okay, at 4:30 a.m., a ceasefire was finally agreed to and announced on the moment Ramadan fasting began, brokered by Egypt. So I'm sure that was a very incredible moment for the Palestinian people in besieged Gaza. Palestinian people have appealed to the international community to hold Israel accountable for its crimes and violations in Gaza. This is not a conflict when only one side has fighter jets with 2,500-pound bombs, artillery power from military tanks and naval ships, and airstrike capabilities from drones. And snipers. No, this is a slaughter. Hamas and the Palestinian resistance should in no way be condemned. They committed no crime under international law. Those are facts. Each missile costs $100,000, falling from a $20 million airplane, warplane, flying at $6,000 per hour to destroy homes, offices, mosques, schools, residential structures. And as compared to the people in Gaza living on $1 a day in the besieged strip. And all of this is paid for by U.S. tax dollars and EU tax money through quote-unquote aid to Israel. 13 schools were damaged and destroyed in the bombing, according to Defense for Children International Palestine. 13 schools were damaged and destroyed. According to Defense for Children International Palestine, in 2018 was the bloodiest year for Palestinian children, with 53 violently killed by Zionist forces. Now, there's a couple more things I'm going to mention. There's an article by Mondwise that I want to read just part of it, and then there's a bill in Congress right now that we need to support. But I'm going to bring Dan Frank in here, and then we can cover those things. Are you ready, Dan? Let's see. Ad. Here we go. Haven't seen you in a while. All right, I sent you a request. So yeah, Michael Bravo is listing the resistance factions: Al-Quds Brigade, Al-Nusra is not Palestinian resistance. Al-Nusra is Syria, in Syria. No. It's Al-Quds Brigade. There's Islamic Jihad. There is who else? Maybe somebody can type them in. There's Hamas. There's many different There's more. There's many different Palestinian Al-Qassam brigades. Hey!
Hey! How are you? Hi, Dan. Good.
Hey.
Nice to see you. Yeah, you too.
For a minute, I thought you
had a haircut. I got to pull back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, does anybody hear
an echo?
I hear my
voice
playing back.
No, I don't hear an echo.
I do.
Do
Do you have headphones?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
They're petering out on me. In fact, I got to buy a new pair today.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, there's a strong echo. I hear everything that I'm saying. What about you guys? Do you guys
hear an echo?
You do? Okay, they hear the echo too.
They hear the echo too. Let me try and see if I can get at them.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah. Echo is gone. Yay.
Oh, good.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, I just happened to sign on to Facebook, and it's been a while since I've been on. I was posting this morning about what's going on in Gaza.
Yeah.
I saw you on live.
Good. I'm glad you're here.
Popped in. Yeah, we need to do more live streams.
Definitely.
Together.
Yeah, definitely. I got to turn my volume up. There we go. Now I can hear you better. Yeah, we will. We can. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was blocked from Facebook for 30 days.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were still in your block or not.
The Zionists got me blocked, like right before this premeditated strike on Gaza. And for those of you who tuned in later to this live stream, the whole live stream, I went through the timeline of events from Friday to the ceasefire on Monday morning, and provided proof that this was premeditated murder. That there was this article by Tikum Ulam, Israeli whistleblower, and there was a report published by the Zionist Occupation, and it said that they were planning to launch a strike at the end of May. Then they recanted that and edited it and changed their report to say sometime in the summer, beginning of the summer, like that. So even by their own admission, this was premeditated murder, right?
Yeah. It's a real mess over there.
Yeah. And we know that they're planning to do more.
Come in.
You ready?
In a minute, I'm gonna.
You better be. It's after 1 o'clock.
I'm on the video. I'll be.
Well, that means you can pause it. Make it quick, Danette.
That's my sister.
My gosh. Your sister?
Yeah.
Danette? Now we know her pet name for you.
Yeah, because of my hair.
She was teasing you hardcore there.
Yeah, we're supposed to go get my car inspect the emissions things taken care of. They screw you here in America. You got your emissions done every 2 years. It's a racket.
Yeah,
like everything else.
System is
Yeah.
corrupt. We're born into it, you know, with the birth certificate
Oh,
fraud, right?
yeah.
Which is slavery. Once you're born in, and not just in America, but America was the first country to start it, and then it spread across the world. But when you're born, basically when your parents sign the birth certificate, right? You become
Yeah.
a corporation under your name, and you're owned by the bank. You don't, you know,
You're
it's
not,
like
you know,
slavery,
people in America think they're free. Nothing is free. Nothing.
right?
Nothing is free. I mean, you got to pay a tax on your house. Even after you pay for the house, you got to continue paying house taxes. And if you don't, they take it away from you. Now, is
Right,
that ownership?
right.
That is not ownership.
No, right.
America is so fucked up.
It's slavery. Even in Europe, it's very hard to own a property, and then there's many restrictions as to what you can do with your property. You know, it's slavery. It's what it is.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
And we have this system of slavery, you know, created by the Rothschild Zionists, you know, the financial banking system worldwide. It's a system of slavery. It's just that people in the West are in denial of it. Like people in the West actually think that we're free. Oh, I mean, if you compare our lifestyle right now to Gaza, to
Yeah,
besieged or occupied people, big difference. Of course, we
we're
have
not being
bombed.
we're not being bombed,
We're
right?
not
We're not being bombed, but
we're
make no
not being
mistake,
prevent, but
we
we're
are
not
not
free.
we are not free as people would like to think.
Every nation is under this Zionist tyranny. This is true. Well,
Yes,
most
yes,
nations.
absolutely.
Most, yeah. They've infiltrated into all world governments and stuff. So I wanted to read a little bit from this Mondowei's article to just, you know, finish this report up. Is that okay?
Yeah, and
Okay.
then I got something to tell you
You do?
offline.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
some good news
Oh, good.
for, for us.
We need good news. Okay.
Yeah, we do.
All right. So Mondowei's reported on Tuesday, May 7th, about the occupation's bombing of sorry, of a high-rise residential building demolished by the Zionists. It's titled Watch My Proficiency in Toppling Your Seven-Story Building, Israeli Taunts Gaza Landlord. This is a very, very important article. Osmi Dag, and I'm going to read just a little bit, not all of it. Osmi Dagmush, a building owner in Gaza, says that he received a taunting phone call from an Israeli intelligence officer on Sunday. Sheikh Dagmush, this is what the Israeli Zionist, the occupation, the militant, whatever, terrorist said. Quote, Sheikh Dagmush, how are you doing? Count down 5 minutes and watch my proficiency and accuracy in toppling your building, but keep 50 meters away. The 7-story Al-Qamar residential building in the Tel Al-Hawa neighborhood in the Gaza City was then leveled by 6 Israeli missiles. He was honest, he says, while my lifetime dream was turned into fallen dominoes, Dagmush, age 50, said. The anonymous officer gave all tenants in the building 5 minutes to evacuate, he said,
I
through
just posted that.
the cell phones. I
Yeah,
was screaming hysterically, this is a joke, don't do it, this is foolish. 5 minutes is not enough to pick up even a pencil. But the officer insisted that the countdown is running. Despite the smoke still rising from the ruin on Monday, former tenants of the building attempted to retrieve all they could find in the rubble of the high-rise. And there's a picture of a little boy sitting with one of his school books and blankets and things strewn around. Al-Qamar building was home to more than 40 residents and commercial tenants, including a beauty salon, mini market, and tires service store. The bombing over the weekend caused damage to 310 residential buildings, fishing ports, and 2 universities across Gaza, and completely destroyed 18 residential buildings and family homes. In a these were bigger residential buildings, so buildings with many homes within it. And then
Hmm.
in addition to that, family homes, a mosque, 13 schools, 3 media offices, and 3 ambulances. So 3 media offices were bombed. Now, the report that I gave, the timeline, it wasn't all of the crimes that were committed. It was just all what the Palestinian media could translate and report on,
Right.
what they were capable of. So,
Right.
okay, so of course there were many more atrocities committed that went unreported, maybe unreported,
Hmm.
or they'll be reported later. Quote, this guy continues, Dagmush continues, my son's new mini market equipped with food for the holy Ramadan is under rubble. But that seems no less horrible than when I saw a paranoid man with his only knickers on fleeing out after the call. The Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza confirmed that 27 Palestinians, including 2 infants, a toddler, and 2 pregnant women, were killed in the Israeli airstrikes. Oh, I think it was 25, but 2 from the Great Return March demonstrations. So 25 people killed in the airstrikes before an Egyptian-mediated ceasefire agreement between Israel and Palestinian factions was declared. So, all right. So yeah. So you can guys can I'll post this in the comments so you guys can read it or you can find
I
it
just
yourselves
I just made a
online.
post on it myself. You can check it out on my wall.
Okay. And there's one more thing that is very important, what we should do. We should all get behind this bill. It's The Intercept wrote an article, Robert Mackey. It's titled, New House Bill Would Bar Israel from Using U.S. Military Aid to Detain Palestinian Children. Now, people have tried to get bills passed through Congress that would stop U.S. military aid to Israel, right? They failed. However, this is a clever bill that tries to stop U.S. military aid going towards detaining and torturing Palestinian children.
Children.
So maybe we can succeed on this one. But we have to contact all of our Congress members and in the US and tell them to pass this legislation.
We should try to
Okay,
gather a meeting of people to come to DC and actually go to their offices.
that's
Anybody in the area?
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely. And we could even I'll do a little more research. This was made by Representative Betty McCollum, a Minnesota Democrat. Um, so I'll check into this and just look at, find out the dates and everything like that and see what we could do.
Yeah, I do.
All right.
Maybe we can set a date for people to meet in DC and we
Yeah.
can all storm their offices.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I'll lead it.
So, we can support the boycott, divestment, and sanction. They have been successful. Well, actually, I mean, partly it's, activists bringing awareness on social media to Eurovision and the hypocrisy of that. But I think mostly the Israelis Zionist occupation has sabotaged it themselves, especially after this airstrikes on Gaza this weekend. The whole Eurovision is a complete flop, and they just finished themselves now. I mean, who's going to want to
There
go
was
there?
there was an article in Haaretz very very recently that support for Israel in America is severely declining.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
people in America are waking up. I mean, I know it's been a slow process over the years or the decades,
Yeah.
but they are waking up.
They
My
are.
mom had to talk. My mom asked her pastor this past Sunday if she could have a talk with him about this subject, and he's going to come over to the house and she's gonna enlighten him about it. The Israel
Bless her heart.
and this she's
See,
really
every little thing that we can do counts. And I want people to
yeah
realize that, even if it's something small, even if it's just talking to a pastor from a Christian church, that's a leader in the community. That
yeah
has an effect. Even if you can't, you don't, maybe if somebody thinks they can't do something, well, you can. You can contact Congress. You can, you know, do like your mom is doing. Every little action helps, even big or small.
I mean, the churches are responsible for a lot of this.
You're,
Yeah,
oh,
you
there you're
first
back.
too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the churches are responsible for a lot of this support of Israel, as you
Zionism,
know.
Zionist
Yeah,
Christians.
yeah. The
Yeah.
evangelicals have have completely bought into the Schofield theory,
Do you know
and they're
what I
preaching
came
it.
across? Yes. I came across something from the True Torah Jews, right? They announced in February of this year. So it was just recently, they said they called for the complete dismantlement of the Israeli occupation. They said that Israeli, sorry, they said that authentic world Jewry never acknowledged a Jewish state or in Israel.
No,
They never did. They
no.
never acknowledged Israel. And they were against it from the beginning. So they're calling for the dismantlement. And I think it's time. I think it's time that we go and we take that next step and call for the dismantlement of the occupation. Because the two-state solution, it's done. Done. And,
It's
I
dead.
think even the
It's dead.
Palestinian people, they realize there will never be a Palestinian state. The deal of the century, which is something that we can get into. I want to do another live stream and I want to read through an article because information was leaked. It was Palestine Post 24 that translated again, the Zionist occupation released information for their own people in Hebrew, leaks about the deal of the century. And it's been translated and we have, an indication of what is in that report. But it's absolutely there will be no Palestinian state, at least not on Palestinian land. They want
There's
to
not going
create a
to. Trump is trying to get. He is actually trying to get them to go to the Sinai. That's his big plan, is to get them all to
yes,
leave the West Bank and Gaza and go to
and
the Sinai.
create a new state. They want Hamas to disarm. They want Hamas to disarm, that's for sure. And they want to relocate Gazans, all of Gaza, to the Sinai because again, there's that oil deposit there under Gaza soil. That's what they want. Um,
Yeah,
but there will be no military resistance. They won't be allowed, and the borders of this state will be completely controlled. How is that a state?
I mean, kicking people out of their land. This is
It's insane.
Trump's and Jared Kushner's brilliant idea,
Right.
and they're going to name a town in the Golan Heights after Trump.
They're
Did you?
tripping on hormones.
They're going to name a town after this wacko.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah, for
mean,
the Golan Heights.
which is more stolen property. They,
So,
they just give it a
so
whole new
yeah, that will never
meaning.
fly. That will never fly. And of course, the Palestinian people, they will never disarm. They will never. I mean, I'm sure some of them would sell out, but they're going to be the minority,
I think so.
vast minority. Of course, Palestinian people will never leave their land. They're born with the key in their hand to their homes.
They're the true Semites there.
They're the true Semites, and they're also closer related to the true Israelites than the Zionists are,
These
according
European.
to DNA.
I keep telling you, when I walk through Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and see all these white Jews, my skin I just get so freaking mad. When I go into the West Bank and I see, an indigenous Middle Eastern person, that's obvious is Middle Eastern, and then you go into Tel Aviv, into Israel, and you see these whiteys, blonde hair and blue eyes, telling me you're indigenous to this land. It's beyond laughable.
Yeah.
And how people fall for this nonsense.
Yeah. They did a big because they've been planning and preparing for this for so long that they even, the last biblical, the New Testament, they inserted things at the bottom. They inserted stuff into the Bible saying that, things about Israel and stuff like that. So people will read that, well, it's in the Bible. Yeah, but it's at the bottom. It's not part of the scripture. And, it's just they're just brainwashed. And then the media is owned by them.
And they truly think
Um,
they're the chosen ones. They
chosen
were
people.
chosen to spread the gospels. That's all they were
Well, they're
chosen for.
they're not the chosen tribes. They're Khazars. They're not even
Why?
Jews. I
Why?
mean, they're
Yeah,
not historic Judaism. It's not linked to the bloodline of Abraham.
these white Europeans are not. Of course not.
They're Khazars. Well, according to DNA, 98% of the Jewish community worldwide are Khazars,
Yeah,
Ashkenazi Jews. They're not actual real Jews. Real Jews are Semites. The real Jews that do have the blood of Abraham's lineage are
and it's not.
Semitic people and Arabs. Most of them are Arabic.
And it's not many of them.
No, it's 2%. But, to be fair, not all Jews are, and then, okay, there are Jews, a lot of American Jews are rising up against the occupation. Not all Jews are Zionists, and then not all Zionists are Jews. There's Luciferian Zionists from the Cabal.
I mean,
There's Christian Zionists.
99% of Washington D.C. are Zionists. In the House, the
Yeah.
Senate, the White House, the Supreme
American
Court.
Jews, there were 125 American Jews in the West Bank. And this was in my report. They were brutalized on Friday. 13 of them abducted. Palestinian journalists, Palestinians, Israeli activists, and then North American Jews. 125 people were in the West Bank, in a southern province of Hebron, in a refugee camp, trying to rehabilitate a road that allows access to hospitals and you know water. And they were brutalized by the Zionist militia.
Hebron is a mess. It is an absolute mess there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a rough place. They removed the international activists, solidarity activists that were stationed in Hebron just as watchers, to record any crimes, to protect children from the illegal colonizers, because these settler criminals were attacking children on their way to school. And they're known for abducting kids and performing Talmudic rituals on them
I know.
and murdering them. Yeah,
I
so
know.
the Israeli occupation, the Netanyahu regime, like kicked out these foreign activists, and a lot more crimes have been happening in Hebron since then.
Yeah, Hebron is a mess.
Yeah,
I mean, they raided my apartment the first year I was there, and shot tear gas all through the complex, and scared the children to
yeah,
death and my neighbors. They ripped down the Yasser Arafat banner that was on the wall. They ripped down the Palestinian flag that was flying on the apartment, and they went into the house and shot guns and shot holes in the ceiling.
stuff.
This is the stuff they do. They terrorize.
Yeah,
They are the terrorists,
yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt.
yeah. Ghassan Katbe left another very intelligent comment. He says the deal of the century is totally rejected by all Palestinians. The United States is not a neutral party, but a participant in Israel's crimes.
Amen.
Absolutely. Yeah, so
He's a
even
very
President Abbas rejects this deal of the century.
Gasson is a very wise and kind man. I love him like a brother. He is an amazing man. He's the nicest person you're ever going to meet. He invited me into his home. I slept at his house. He fed me breakfast. His son gave up his bedroom for me. And I said, no, no, I'll sleep on the couch. No, Dan, we wouldn't have that. I mean, the family is just so kind. And these are the
That's how,
people that the American government wants you to think they're terrorists, which,
exactly.
which pisses me off to no
This is
end.
how the Palestinian people are. When I was in Palestine, I was there living there for 1 year in the West Bank, occupied West Bank. Um, they touched my heart, changed my life forever. Amazing people, most welcoming. They treat the guests like royalty, you know?
That's the one word they all know in English is welcome. If they don't know any other word, they know the word welcome. When you're walking down the streets, welcome, welcome.
Palestine was famous throughout all of the Middle East, the Islamic Crescent. It wasn't the Middle East back then. It was Jerusalem was the capital. It was called Greater Jerusalem, and it included Jerusalem and it included Palestine and Lebanon and part of Syria and Jordan. This was all known as the Greater Jerusalem. They're the same people, just different villages.
Yes.
And then, the French and the colonizers came, British, and, divided things up, Spanish, and turned the Islamic Crescent into the Middle East. But throughout all of the Islamic Crescent, Palestine was known as the land for all people, for a people without a land. And even the Jews who were, chased out of wherever they were living came and settled in Palestine and um, had peace and harmony for the last 1600 years.
I know. I spoke to a few people, older people, that remember those times.
Yeah,
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 I
me
did.
too.
Some older people in their 70s that remember that they lived in peace and harmony.
And the Sephardi Jews, they'll tell you that too. Like, people, it, okay, the Palestinian people did not start wearing the hijab until about 1980. Before that, they were like, you couldn't tell the difference between a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew. They were brothers and sisters. And, they shared land, they babysat each other's children. They'll tell stories like this. Um, even the Catholic, the Crusades, the Christian Crusades could not, when they conquered Jerusalem, they could not tell the difference between the Christians and the Muslims, so they just killed everybody. They slaughtered about 100,000 people in 10 days, men, women, and children, slaughtered the whole city. That is, how, now they're not Christians. We know the Vatican is not Christianity. That's the
No,
synagogue,
no,
part of the synagogue of Satan. They
yeah,
adopted Talmudic law some 1100 years ago or whatever. And, they're Jesuits. So this part of the synagogue of Satan, like the Israeli occupation. These Khazar, Khazarian Jews. They were an empire, and they have been systematically taking control of our world. They are the control grid. They run the control grid. And it is a worldwide cabal
yes, it
of
is,
people who claim to be Jews, but they're not.
but
They
they're
are the
not.
synagogue of Satan, as Isa said, as Jesus Christ said in the Bible. That beware of in Revelations 2:9 and 3:9. Beware of
Yeah,
those who say they are Jews, but are
but they're
not,
not.
and are of the synagogue of Satan.
Of Satan. Yes,
And Christians need to understand what the synagogue of Satan, these fake Jews, if you will. I mean, maybe some of them really are. I mean, I don't, whatever, but um, majority of them, go along with the agenda, they need to understand how they're viewed, how they regard Christians. Like the Israelis, they look at the Christians as filth. They won't even eat with them. They come over on tours, and Palestinian people, they work, sometimes from the village I was in, they come in and work in Jerusalem, and they work with these tour guide groups, Israeli tour, things like that, help out here and
Hmm.
there, helping hands. And they witnessed when the the Israeli tour guide would take people around to take Christian groups around, but when it came time to eat, they would serve them and then leave the room. They wouldn't sit down and eat with them because in the Talmud it says that Christians are pigs. You don't eat with the pigs.
Well, my mom and dad went to Israel. They were on a tour bus, and they had a Jewish tour guide. And when they were going to cross over into Bethlehem in the West Bank, he got off and said, "I can't go in there." And my father raised his hand and said, "Why can't you go in there?" He said, "Because they'll kill me." And even my mom and father said, "Oh, give me a break." And then one came with a Palestinian tour guide when they went across the border, and he said, I'm a Christian Palestinian. You're totally safe here. You know, Christians and Muslims get along fine here. You'll be fine. But
Hmm.
I mean, they always play the victim.
Oh yeah.
Always the
They're the
victim.
masters of it. It's psychological warfare. They divert the attention off of themselves and their crimes, and they have to put it onto somebody else. And they're the masters of this.
They are.
So they blame the Muslims. I mean, look, Muslims are the number one victim of genocide in our world today. Muslims are victims,
I
and that
know.
yet they are demonized by the media. I mean, in here in Europe, here in Finland, Finland hates Muslims. Majority of the people don't like Muslims. And there are some real racists here. Um,
Same way in
when
America.
yes, because and it's social engineering. It's brainwashing from the media, which is owned by Israel. So they're the masters of diversion. And of course, who did 9/11? Well, we know, right? We know Israel
Israel.
did 9/11. And they diverted the attention from that. They staged the whole thing to look like Muslims did it. All of those hijackers are still living today, and they were CIA assets from Saudi Arabia. They weren't Muslim. They
No.
were Wahhabi terrorists, and they're still alive. They didn't die. The whole thing was just this. It was the Zionists that did it. Inside job, Bush crime family, Israel. They're not our friends. So there
No.
is, yeah,
Ask the people in the USS Liberty if they're our friends.
right. Yeah, exactly. There was never justice for that.
No,
By
never.
deception, thou shalt do war.
Do war. That's their motto.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
to go
You
and
have
get
to
my
go.
car inspected. I do want to talk to you today. Are you going to be up? I know it's late there.
Sure. No, I am. No, it's not late. The sun is still in the sky. I'm hiding from it here.
You guys go from 2 hours
Otherwise it's
to
the Illuminati one eye thing.
you guys go from 3 hours of sunlight a day to.
No, the sun is setting later now because it's summer.
Well, I'm just
So,
saying in the
it's
winter you
like,
have 2 hours of daylight.
oh yeah, right.
Too.
5.5.
Yeah.
5.5.
I'll never forget being on a train going into Helsinki when I was with you. And I was on a train. It was like 3:15, and I'm watching the sunset. I'm like, oh my God, it's 3:15 in the afternoon and the sun's setting.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that.
I know. And
It,
it makes you
it was
sleep a lot.
God. Did I sleep like 24 hours that one time in your house?
Almost. It was 19. When you first
First,
arrived.
I was so
You
tired.
zonked out. I was scared. I was like, oh, I had to wake you and check on you and just like, are you okay? Do you want some water? Do you want some food? I was like, are you okay? You were just out. And I know it's the darkness. Like the same thing
It's,
happened to me I when I came over from the first time to Finland. I just slept 16 hours. You're just like donk.
it's, I mean, if you have insomnia, it definitely helps your insomnia, which I do.
Yeah.
I have it.
Oh, listen, look at this. Michael Bravo says that Canada moved their embassy to Al-Quds, to Jerusalem, occupied Jerusalem last week. I didn't even know about that.
Really?
Yeah, they just must have done it on the sly. They must have done it kind of quietly.
Yeah, 'cause I haven't heard about it.
I'm surprised that, yeah. Yes, exactly. Khalda Manzoor. Muslims are victims all around the world. And people, you try to tell people that, they just don't want to believe it because years and years of propaganda fed into our brains.
Listen, there's like 1.3 billion Muslims in the world. If they
No,
wanted to
what?
wreak
No,
some
1 point,
havoc,
it's almost 2 billion.
whatever the number is, I know it's a lot. If they wanted
Yeah.
to wreak some havoc on the world, they could do it.
Well, what happens, like people need to know this, like the basics. Like 70%, is it 70? No, 80% of Muslims are Sunni Muslim, right? They're moderate. They follow the Quran. They're not extremist in their thinking at all. Within 20% are sects, and some of those sects are very extreme. The Quran specifically says that you're not supposed to make sects in Islam, but it happens, right? So within that 20%, there are some sects that are very extreme. And what our government does, knowing this, US, CIA and Israel and the UK and blah, they purposefully they back groups of people that will do terrorism. They back them with weapons, like extremist so-called Muslim sects. Okay,
Yeah,
it's not really Islam, but it's under that umbrella. And then also they will put them into power. So for example, like in Iraq right now is a perfect example. Okay, the CIA put the Ba'ath Party into power, Saddam Hussein, and then they took them out, and after replaced them with another worst extremist sect of a Shia sect, which consider it an honor to kill Sunnis. So now you've got this Iraqi government killing innocent people, killing their own people, using cluster bombs to bomb Sunni villages and stuff. So again, one way or another, the Muslims are the victims.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
The real Muslims following the real Islam are the victims of genocide.
I
Okay,
completely
yes,
agree.
yeah, Muslims are also doing it to Muslims, but that's because they're from a sect that is not really Islam.
Yeah,
That doesn't that follows some other indoctrination. And this is, the Zionist terrorism fueling it all.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
So I will call you tonight, in
Sure.
a few hours. I got to get
Very
my
good.
car, the admissions, because they close at 4.
All right. Yeah, let's wrap this up. So, I guess we covered everything that needs to be covered. I said everything I needed to say in this report, and that was a surprise having you come in at the end.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Okay. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Please share. These are the facts. If anybody wants this report, I'm happy to share it. If anybody in the media wants it wants to publish it or whatever, right here is the proof positive that these airstrikes on Gaza were premeditated, that every life lost was premeditated murder, that these are crimes against humanity by their own admission, by reports that the Israelis published. So please share this live stream, and we'll be seeing everybody soon.
Yeah.
And Ramadan Kareem. Now I have to figure out how to stop this. Okay.